What just happened in Dallas is sending shockwaves through the entire NFL, and it's no exaggeration to say that Jerry Jones, the legendary, polarizing, hands-on owner of the Dallas Cowboys, is absolutely furious. Not just a little disappointed, not quietly upset behind closed doors. No, Jerry is fuming, and this time his frustration has spilled out into the public eye, dragging the Dallas Cowboys organization into the center of a controversy that could shape the rest of the season and maybe even the future of some of the team's biggest stars. It all began with what some are calling a minor contract technicality, but for Jerry Jones, it's about much more than money. It's about leadership, accountability, and the message being sent not just to the locker room, but to fans, to other players across the league, and perhaps most of all, to the star player at the center of it all. The story starts with a clause buried in a contract, a clause that, according to reports, allowed the Cowboys to reduce a player's base salary if he didn't participate in a certain percentage of the off-season program at the team facility. We're talking about a highly paid athlete, someone with Pro Bowl credentials, someone many fans thought was untouchable. But when he opted to train and rehab away from the Cowboys facility, despite being under contract and recovering from injury, he triggered that clause, and the front office, with Jerry Jones's full support, enforced it. That move, on paper, meant a sizable financial penalty, hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially more coming straight out of the player's earning. But the real explosion didn't come from the enforcement itself. It came from what Jerry Jones said afterward, what he chose to say publicly, and how he said it that lit the match on this firestorm. In an interview following the punishment decision, Jones didn't mince words. In fact, he leaned into it, stating flatly that the player in question didn't earn it and didn't come, referring to his absence from the team facility. That wasn't just a critique, it was a full-blown statement about effort, presence, and accountability. He went further, saying that the clause was crystal clear, that it existed in black and white in the contract, and that the Cowboys were simply enforcing what had already been agreed to. But then he shifted gears and made it personal, not in the sense of attacking the player's character, but in how he framed what leadership should look like. According to Jones, when you're one of the highest-paid players on the team, when you're viewed as a core part of the Cowboys brand, a face of the franchise, you aren't just expected to play well. You're expected to be visible, present, vocal, committed in every sense. That's not new, he said. It needs to have some show with it. In other words, if you're being paid like a star, you need to act like one, especially in front of younger players, coaches, staff, and fans. What stung even more for supporters of the player was Jerry's insistence that the enforcement of the clause wasn't just justified, but necessary for the long-term health of the team. He warned that not enforcing it would be detrimental to the Cowboys' culture, that it would set the wrong example, that it would create an environment where accountability could be questioned. This is where things start to get complicated. On the one hand, Jerry Jones is clearly trying to draw a line in the sand. He wants to restore, or perhaps redefine, the standard in the Cowboys' locker room. On the other hand, the public nature of this punishment and his comments about the player raise serious questions about trust, loyalty, and whether calling out your own guys in front of the world helps or hurts your team. And then there's the fan reaction, which has been absolutely electric. Cowboys Nation is split. Some fans are praising Jerry, saying it's about time someone held players accountable for skipping team programs, even when they have big contracts. Others are furious, saying that the punishment is petty, unnecessary, and possibly even harmful, especially if the player had legitimate reasons for training elsewhere, like working with a trusted specialist or managing injury recovery in a more controlled setting. But regardless of where you stand, no one can deny that Jerry's words struck a nerve. "It's important to have the right body language," he said, "in every respect when you are one of those rare, financially paid and gifted players." That quote in particular has been repeated everywhere because it says so much with so little. It's not just about whether the player followed the letter of the law in his contract. It's about whether he met the expectations of what it means to wear the Cowboys uniform and get paid like a top-tier leader. So now, we're left asking, where does this go from here? Because this situation is far from over, sources inside the organization say that the locker room has been buzzing ever since the punishment became public. Players are talking some in quiet support of Jerry's tough love approach, others questioning whether a line was crossed. Will this affect team chemistry? Will it spark tension between the front office and key veterans? And what about the player himself? Will he speak out? Will his agent respond? Will he try to renegotiate? Or could this set the stage for a slow-burning rift that ultimately leads to trade rumors, free agency drama, or a complete breakdown in trust? That's the tightrope Jerry Jones is now walking. As one of the most vocal and powerful owners in the NFL, Jones has never shied away from making headlines. But this moment feels different. It's not just about being a businessman, it's about asserting authority, defining a team culture, and making an example of someone who, at least publicly, hasn't pushed back yet. But behind the scenes, don't be surprised if meetings are happening, calls are being made, and damage control is in full swing. Because even if this punishment stands, even if the player accepts it without public resistance, the implications are huge. Future contract negotiations could become tenser. Other players may now demand more flexibility, fewer restrictive clauses, or more guarantees against punishment like this. Agents across the league will be watching, taking notes, preparing their next moves. Coaches will be holding their breath, hoping this doesn't fracture an already delicate locker room balance. And meanwhile, fans will keep asking the tough questions: is this about discipline or ego? Is Jerry making a principled stand? Or is he sending the wrong message by making this fight public? Could this be the moment where the Cowboys either lock in and play their best football or spiral into internal conflict just when they need to come together? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, when Jerry Jones speaks, the league listens. And when he's furious, when his tone shifts from owner to enforcer, you better believe the shockwaves will be felt far beyond Dallas. If you're a Cowboys fan, this is one of those moments that will be remembered for years. Whether it becomes a turning point for the better or a warning sign of deeper issues depends entirely on what happens next and how this player, the front office, and the rest of the team respond. One enforced clause has turned into a full-blown culture battle, and now the spotlight is on the Cowboys like never before. The message has been sent, but what comes back might be even more explosive. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Jerry Jones was right to enforce the clause? Should he have handled it differently? Is this a smart leadership move or a bad PR gamble? And most importantly, how do you think this will affect the Cowboys' season moving forward? Hit that like button if you appreciate deep dives like this. And don't forget to subscribe for the latest Cowboys news, reactions, and all the drama you need from around the NFL. This story is only just beginning, and trust me, we'll be following it every step of the way.